Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto secretly formed a hidden harem of dangerous Kunoichi? Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. A puppet not even a day old and yet is already able to elicit a gasp from those who are fortunate or unfortunate enough to lay eyes on it. Naruto smirks as Yugo stumbles backward a bit at seeing the huge figure. She obviously hadn't been expecting to see that. Naruto twitches a finger and Oni Tenshi steps aside and gestures with its arm. "Come in," says Naruto after 10 seconds. Yugo obeys. Her eyes still firmly locked on Naruto's newest creation. It stood 7 feet tall, had pitch black skin and snow-white hair. It wore a Roman-style helmet and was built like a very muscular man. All the same parts as the day before, only everything was connected. The puppet's left shoulder now had a massive black wing sprouting from it that arched up then folded like a bird's wing. The fold was 4 feet above the puppet's head. The huge axe was strapped to its back and the shield was connected to the right arm. The sash held a large brass knuckle and the left forearm's gauntlet and huge clock gear was painted in seals and several forward-facing cylinders were connected all along the edges of the gear and were also decorated with assorted kanji. Onitenshi's last feature was the 2 metallic 20-foot-long tentacles that sprouted from right shoulder wrapped diagonally around the chest 2.5 times. Naruto notices Yugo staring at his puppet and clears his throat to get his attention. "I know he is truly fascinating but we do not have time to waste," he says, causing her to flinch. "My apologies Uzumaki-san. So what do you want to work on first? Nin or Gen?" Naruto eyes glint with sick anticipation. "Teach me Genjutsu first. I will learn that for the first half of the year then we will work on ninjutsu for the second half." "Why Genjutsu first?" Naruto looks up. "If I can drive an enemy to the brink of absolute terror just by looking at them, that would truly be a satisfying feeling. To have the power to completely immobilize my opponent with the use of illusions alone, I could kill my opponents so much easier." Yugo's sweat drops a little. "Right. Well, let's begin, shall we?" "Of course Yugo-san." Over the next 2 weeks the Anbu unit of Konoha would lose complete track of Yugo Azuki. Naruto attended the academy about 3 times a week, but other than that he had become an enigma again. Sai, Danzo's root spy would tail Naruto whenever he wasn't holed up in his home, learned that the boy's already impressive chakra control was getting better. He still had yet to find out why. Danzo himself was also wondering where the hell Yugo had vanished and had sent a few of his subordinates to search her household. It had been literally abandoned. Danzo came to 2 conclusions. Either Yugo was killed by Naruto and thieves broke in and stole all of her stuff, or he froze. "Yugo is at Uzumaki's." This comment earns the attention of several of his subordinates. They look at him with the same look of understanding that Danzo himself had come to realize. Yugo was training Naruto. "That wench!" yells Danzo in a fit of rage. Scene change. Yugo was half asleep in one of Naruto's bedrooms when she sneezes. All of her stuff was still packed and in boxes. The room was quite large. Having used to be a whole other apartment, she sighs. Naruto's offer was sudden. Completely out of the blue. "It is more convenient for you to stay here while you train me. Gather all of your stuff and bring it here," he had said. This had of course stunned and caught her completely by surprise, but she reasoned with his thinking and realized it made perfect sense to have her staying with him for the time being. 1. No one could be inclined to stick their noses where it clearly should not be, and 2. The time wasted while Yugo was heading to Naruto's place had been eliminated altogether, resulting in more training time. Naruto intended to make full use of the year he had. She sighs again. Naruto had been all she had been thinking about lately. It was kind of annoying actually. She was an Anbu, an elite ninja, yet here she was laying in the compound of the most feared and hated boy in Konoha, who would kill an ignorant villager before he would ask questions, and she was thinking about him almost constantly. Ever since that semi-touching moment they had the day he returned her arm. She gets to her feet and heads down toward Naruto's dojo. He was probably training with Yoshino and Oni Tenshi down there, and she figured she might as well help him with his taijutsu. She makes her way down and approaches the door that led to the dojo. Crash. Bam. Yugo leaps to the side as huge axe slams into the ground where she just was. Oni Tenshi, Fox, Naruto and Yoshino were attacking Naruto in a 3-on-1 battle. How Naruto was able to spar with his 3 puppets was still a mystery to her. The concentration it must have taken must be on par with a Sannin. She watches as Naruto draws his katana and leaps away from a Juken strike from Yoshino. Then he ducks under a slash from Fox Naruto's Zanbeitu. They were moving at high Chunin level speed and only seemed to be getting faster. Yugo could see 3 of Naruto's fingers twitching on the hand not holding the katana. Strings attached to the puppets. Naruto was a genius in this art. The fighting style was exclusive to Naruto and Naruto alone in Konoha. She doubted puppet masters in Suna had this level of skill. Suddenly Fox Naruto's tails split apart and the swords stick out from them. The spinning demon wind shuriken also extends from the puppet's arm and rolls out. Yoshino takes up a Juken stance and Oni Tenshi straightens out. Now this was something to see. Onitenshi's wing extends out to the left and the 2 tentacles unwrap themselves from its chest and began to dance wildly to the right of him. The large puppet hefts its shield to the front of it and the large axe rests on his shoulder, ready to slice at a moment's notice. Yugo couldn't help but say, truly a representative of its namesake. Naruto's head snaps in her direction. Yugo-san, up for teaching me more genjutsu? He says after a second. Yugo smiles and nods. We might as well since I'm here. Naruto nods slightly and seals his puppets without a word. It was quite interesting to watch the puppets seemingly turn to mist and seep into the seal on his forearm. Let's begin, he says. I still need to perfect the hell viewing technique. Yugo was no genjutsu specialist, but she knew enough to get Naruto going in the right direction. If his unique ideas concerning his puppets were anything to go by, then all he would need is a gentle push in the right direction and he could improvise from there. Which in his case is not a bad thing. She looks around the dojo. It was dimly lit and the forms of puppets waiting to attack could be seen hiding in the shadows of the corners on the ceiling. She briefly wondered how he maintained all of the security seals and pre-programmed chakra seals and automatic attack puppets distributed all throughout the complex, but cast it aside. Hell, what she should be wondering is where the hell is he getting all of his resources? She shakes her head. It was none of her business and she could only pray that he one day trusts her enough to tell her. Come on Naruto-san, let's begin. Time went by fast. Naruto's ability to learn was astounding. Yugo only knew 5 genjutsus, but still. Naruto had learned them all in 2 months and mastered them in another 2 months. Then he started to improvise and create his own. Just as she knew he would. Why, just the other day had her believing she was flying. With actual wings and everything. He called it false freedom, and it was designed to make you commit accidental suicide. Yugo had been most impressed by Naruto's progress and had gave him a hug out of excitement when he cast the high-level genjutsu known as the tree bind. She had been doing that a lot lately. Hugging the boy, she wondered how it made him feel. Naruto was thinking similar thoughts. His genjutsu was above average and his own creations were good, but he wasn't a genjutsu type person. He just couldn't take them to the levels he clearly desired. It was as if there was some sort of mental block trying to prevent him from perfecting genjutsu. Oh well, he would figure it out one day and remove that block. He closes his eyes and prepares to go to sleep. The ninjutsu training started tomorrow. Yugo couldn't sleep. Thoughts of Naruto once again were plaguing her head. The boy was still a mystery to her. He was cold and showed no emotion. His demeanor was that of a hardened war veteran, and he opened his heart to no one save for Hokage-sama. The old leader had come to visit on several occasions over the last 6 months, and she noticed that Naruto became more relaxed around him. More like the 11-year-old boy he still was. But once Sarutobi was gone, he returned to his usual self. Yugo found herself wishing she could be one of those people he could relax around. She wanted to be one of the people who he could open his heart. To return those hugs she so freely gave to him. She sighs and gets out of bed. She puts on a pair of slippers and quietly makes her way to Naruto's room. With the skill of the job she is trained to do, she slips into Naruto's room and approaches his bed. He was facing the other direction, asleep. She stares at his still form for a whole minute, barely noticing the puppets and the other traps ready to spring to life at the first wrong move. Naruto, she says as she leans down. Naruto was awake. He had been as soon as Yugo left her room. He knew she was coming to his room and prepared. Was she coming to try and kill him? PFF'd, yeah right. She's died just like the others. He pauses a bit as Yugo enters his room and slowly approaches his bed. He was getting tense like no other now, but decided not to spring his traps. She was too close. If she wanted to kill him, she could. Just as he was about to roll around and confront her, he hears her say his name in a tone he had never heard anyone use toward him. It was confusing. He didn't know what feeling was associated with this tone, but he knew it wasn't hate or anger. It felt more like sadness and regret with a bit of longing. He tenses again and widens his eyes when he feels a pair of slender arms wrap softly around his torso and a pair of lips land gently on his cheek. He could see the purple hair of the Anbu as it spilled over into his face, and he could feel the softness of her pressed gently against his back. Naruto, I want to see you smile. Okay, this was getting too awkward in Naruto's opinion. What the hell was this woman doing? Naruto, I don't want you to be alone anymore. I don't want you to be sad any longer. Naruto had to suppress a snort. His tears had dried long ago. Sadness, like any other emotion beside anger and a bit of excitement, was a thing of the past for him. He could feel Yugo's silent sobs jerk through her body as she continued to hold him. She was one in a million, that's for sure. Naruto inwardly commended her for not being an ignorant dumbass anymore, thinking he was the fox, but was still questioning why the hell she was clinging all over him. Finally, after a few minutes, Naruto sighs and sits up, causing the woman to gasp. Holy crap, how long have you been awake? Naruto chuckles and says, since before you even left your own room. The woman eeps loudly and leaps away from Naruto. Her face a very dark red. Naruto grins as Yugo tries desperately to form a sentence. Finally, Naruto says, Yugo, while I appreciate your concern for me and am glad that you have an open mind, I'm going to have to ask you to return to your room. Yugo's sputtering stops instantly and she opts to stare at Naruto as he gazes into her eyes. All of this mushy stuff isn't me, Yugo. I have decided that if I am going to strike fear into my enemies so that I may be left alone, I cannot, no. I refuse to open up my heart. Emotions are a useless obstacle that constantly held me back and kept me weak all that time. Anger, indifference, and amusement at the expense of others are the only feelings that are useful to me. So abandon your effort to unlock the others within me. It's useless. Yugo couldn't take it anymore. She launches herself at Naruto and grabs him in a fierce hug. She holds on to the boy for a whole 10 minutes before finally letting go and staring into his eyes with her own tear-filled orbs. Naruto, I'm going to reawaken your happiness, your sadness. I want to be the one who can do that for you. Naruto sighs and gently pushes the woman off of him. I suggest you return to your room now, Yugo-san. Yugo sighs and turns to leave. The door opens for her and Yugo steps out. As the door closes, Yugo looks back at Naruto one last time. She sighs again. Naruto continued to stare at the spot where Yugo disappeared for 3 more minutes before sighing and laying back down on his bed. Foolish woman, he whispers. Time skip. The next day proceeded like any other day, only this time Naruto and Yugo stood facing each other in the dojo getting ready to begin ninjutsu training. He noticed that Yugo was looking at him with a hint of determination in her eyes. Perhaps formulating a plan to try and find a way to his heart. He flicks his wrist and a puppet lands from a hole in the ceiling. The puppet approaches and hands Naruto a scroll with the Hyuga clan symbol on it. Before Yugo could express her surprise, Naruto speaks. I stole this from that pompous clan with the blank eyes. It turns out they've grown so arrogant that they believe that they no longer need their clan ninjutsu. He opens the scroll and says, all of these have to do with flowers, be it shape, name or actual use of flowers. I will learn these first. Yugo nods and look at the scroll. There were 4 jutsus described in the scroll. The first 2 were water techniques. They were both named for a type of flower. Water release. Cry of splitting daisy, and the water release, fury of the blue rose. Then there was the fire technique. Tears of the dandelion. And finally was the flower release, dance of the cherry blossom. The scroll gave no descriptions of the jutsus, but she could see why Naruto would be interested in learning them. Flower-style techniques were something she as well as everyone else save for probably the Hokage and the older Hyuga clan members had never heard of before. She sighs at the arrogance of the Hyugas and pitied them a bit as well. Because now their secret jutsus were in the hands of Naruto Uzumaki. Okay Naruto, which one first? Naruto grins and points. Scene change. All around Konoha, young ninjas in training were picking up their regimens. Neji Hyuga had indeed decided to switch up his style and even agreed to learn another taijutsu style from his team sensei. He was actually getting along quite well in his opinion. The Juken was becoming more and more of a thing of the past. He still used the basic fundamentals such as attacking the inner coils and the tenketsu, but the style would often change. He started to incorporate the iron fist that his sensei was teaching him as well as other jutsus into the Juken, creating a style that could one day destroy the Hyuga. Hanabi and Hinata had also stepped it up. Hanabi had first focused on getting Hinata to open up more and cast her insecurities to the wind. It was a difficult task, but 2 months after her encounter with Naruto she had succeeded. Hanabi had used Naruto as a sore spot on several occasions, saying to look at how strong he was because of his own confidence. She had said to Hinata that lack of confidence would get her killed. It took a whole lot of effort and time. Finally though, after 2 months, Hinata's stutter had vanished. She still was insecure, but she wasn't as sad as she was, and because of this they were finally able to begin their revised training. They too had heeded Naruto's words and were branching out in different directions. Hanabi had a goal, and it was to surpass Naruto in power. The puppet user interested her greatly, and she didn't want to be a weakling in front of him. Hinata, although scared of Naruto, still found his strength something to admire. She wanted to be like him. Strong, confident, and tolerant of no one. That was her goal. And from the shadows with glaring Byakugan eyes watched an angry Hiashi. Those 3 might become a problem. He would keep an eye on them and put a stop to their actions if they got out of hand. Scene change. Sasuke continued to push his body to the limits. He had to get stronger. He had to improve. He studied all of the scrolls and even began to wear weights. If he remembered correctly, Naruto wore weights as well. He trained his body and his mind to the limits and beyond. If Naruto could be as strong as he is, then so could he. He would reach the level needed to kill his brother. Now he was currently doing a vigorous chakra training exercise. He needed high reserves if he wanted power, right? Definitely. Especially if the person he wishes to surpass before he surpasses his brother was as strong as he is now and would only get stronger. Sasuke pants as he refocuses his concentrations on hanging upside down from the ceiling with a cinderblock hanging off of his wrists. Scene change. Tsuchi was in the forest. The area around him was littered with weapons and what appeared to be claw marks from a large beast. He was panting heavily while holding a large sitar in his hand. The item itself was a strange one. It was shaped like any other sitar, only it was black and much thinner than regular ones. The base of the instrument also sported a white crescent moon-shaped blade that curved perfectly with the shape of the base. It looked like a guillotine. Tsuchi places the weapon in a case and straps it to his back. His training was done for now. It was getting dark and he had been out in the forest for 5 hours. Thoughts of Naruto crossed his mind. He had finally come to realize why it was that Naruto acted the way he did and felt a bit more respect toward him. But he still didn't like him too much. Quiet, emotionless people just clashed with his personality. It was natural to feel that way. He briefly wondered how his lost sister would have felt about him. That thought causes a bit of sadness and determination to well up inside him. I'll find you. That's a promise. Time skip. Naruto woke up to Yugo once again giving him a loving hug. He sighs. When was she going to quit this? Naruto, do you know what today is? She asks. Naruto looks around then spots his calendar. He grins and gently pushes Yugo off of him. It's the day I meet this Danzo and claim his head. Yugo nods and heads toward the door. Good luck, Naruto, she says. Naruto nods. Scene change. Finally the day had come. This was a day that he had been waiting for 6 whole months. Danzo grins as Sai appears before him. Report. Sai nods and says, the 6 months are up. Uzumaki is headed toward the Ninja Academy as we speak. The Genin exams will be held precisely 60 minutes from now at 3:30 p.m. Judging from Uzumaki's previous visits to the Ninja Academy, he will leave out of the southwest exit and head to the Hokage's office before heading back home once he has passed. I see. And Azuki? Sai shakes his head. She is still staying at Uzumaki's place. I will confront her myself. You talk with Uzumaki. Danzo frowns. The plan is for all of us to go after Uzumaki. Sai nods then looks up with an alien glint in his eyes. But wouldn't it be wiser to kill Azuki before she meets up with Naruto should he refuse? Danzo smiles. Sai, you are indeed my greatest subordinate. Yes. Go locate Yugo and eliminate her. Sai nods and says, hi. She shall not meet up with Uzumaki today. Thank you, Sai, that is all. Understood, says Sai before melting into the shadows. A second later, a group of 30 kneeling Root Anbu members appear. You are all to follow me when the time comes. I will go to Uzumaki myself and offer him a position. If he refuses, you are to kill him. Understood. There was a chorus of, hi Danzo-sama. Before they vanish. Now all we do now, is wait. Scene change. Naruto entered the class and made his way to the back of the room and silently waited for his turn for the test. The students around him were chatting excitably, talking about how they were going to make their parents proud and become great ninja for Konoha and all that. He scoffs. These bunch of fools are lucky their parents were wise enough to keep the ignorant mouths shut around him, otherwise they'd be orphans right now. The talking went on for another hour as the students continued to fall into an air of confidence and anticipation until finally Iruka and Mizuki walk in. Good afternoon, class. Today is the day you've all been waiting for. Today is the day you all take the graduation exams. There was some cheering and other such yells of joy. Iruka clears his throat and says, not the exam is quite simple really. All you have to do is make sure you can efficiently do the 3 academy jutsus. There were some whoops of joy. Some groans of disappointment and a big sweat drop from Naruto. One by one the students would leave the room with one of the teachers and come back 5 minutes later either wearing a Konoha forehead protector in victory or hanging their bare foreheads in defeat. Naruto didn't really pay much attention. He was not too happy right now. He watches as Sasuke is called up and sighs when he returns 5 minutes later wearing a headband. Naruto Uzumaki, says Iruka. The class focuses its attention on he young puppet user and face vault at what he says next. Iruka-san, I guess I fail because I do not remember how to do the 3 academy jutsus. Iruka face vaults as well. What the hell do you mean by that? Naruto sighs. It means that I have been so focused on learning higher level jutsus that I forgot how to do these 3. Iruka sighs. At least try and remember. Come on. Naruto sighs, gets to his feet and follows Iruka out of the classroom to the room a few doors down. Once he arrives, he spots Mizuki and a table decorated in a few Konoha headbands. Welcome Naruto. First I'm going to ask you to do the replacement jutsu, says Iruka, not wasting any time. Naruto concentrated a bit and gathers a bit of chakra. He was mildly surprised when he actually managed to switch places with Mizuki. Iruka smiles. Good Naruto, now do the transformation jutsu. Naruto shrugs and without a word he transforms into a somewhat reasonable copy of Iruka. The only problem was that fact that the hair was still blonde. Iruka frowns a bit. Your henge needs work. Okay now, do the clone jutsu. Naruto closes his eyes and gathers more chakra. He takes a deep breath and says, Bunshin no jutsu. There were 6 puffs of smoke and 6 dead-looking Narutos appeared. They were way less than satisfactory clones. Iruka looks at Naruto regretfully and says, I'm sorry Naruto, but you fail. Naruto says nothing. He merely turns to leave, but not before hearing Mizuki. Iruka, that was a bit harsh. Why fail him when he obviously has the ability to be a great ninja? Iruka sighs. It's the will of the council. If he can't do the jutsus then he fails. I would love to pass that boy. He has great potential. Naruto shrugs and adds Iruka to his now 3-person long, people he does not need to kill list, along with Yugo and Sarutobi. He could feel the sincerity behind the teacher's actions and respected him a bit more for it. Mizuki on the other hand, he didn't like that man. Naruto made his way back to the academy and is met with the startled gazes of the entire class. Holy crap, he failed, yells the Inuzuka boy. How the hell did that happen? It was then that the class exploded into loud chatter. Naruto sighs in exasperation and exits the building. He walked across the small playground and spots an old swing. Now there was something that brought back some memories. Times of his early childhood before that incident. Back when he was still weak and defenseless. He takes his place on the swing and closes his eyes. Content to listen to all around him. Becoming a ninja for Konoha didn't matter to him. It's not like he would willingly serve under someone anyway. No one deserved the privilege except Sarutobi Gigi. Chances are he'd end up poisoning his sensei and turning him into a puppet anyway, traumatizing his teammates in the process. He grins a bit at that thought and another rises up. Perhaps he should create some more battle puppets. It would be nice to have a personal army and not just a bunch of security guards. Besides, if he aimed to be the greatest puppeteer then he would have too. But he couldn't just choose anybody. If they were alive then they had to have been powerful. If they are his own creations then they had to be as strong as human puppets. He looks up in thought. See that? It's that boy. I heard he failed. Good. Imagine if that thing became a ninja. I know. After all he's the. Shish, we can't talk about that. Suddenly a pair of Senbon needles jams into each woman's legs and they fall to the ground with gasps of pain. Their legs were useless for the moment. They look up and see Naruto standing over them and gasp. Help the monst. Begins one woman but is cut off as Naruto touches a nerve on her neck, effectively shutting down the voice box. The other woman was too scared to say anything. Naruto looks down at the women with ice-cold emotionless eyes that seem to shine with anger. Those who cannot keep their mouths shut are always the first to die. Remember that so next time you'll know how to act around me. He then turns and walks away, leaving an entire group of terrified people. Up in the tree sat a root Anbu. He vanishes, trailing after Naruto. Time skip. It was dark. Naruto had, instead of going home, decided to take a stroll through the forest. Those two women had pissed him off, and the only thing that stopped him from removing their heads was his logic. They hadn't openly tried to kill him, so they were in the clear, barely. On top of that, he wouldn't dare kill a woman in front of her children. He would do it in private later. After all, he couldn't stand crying kids, and that's exactly what the killing of those two would have caused. Not to mention a lot of fighting. The two children and his logic had saved those women. But should they say something again, they would die. He made sure to get that point across. As he walked, he became aware of numerous presences within the forest. 5 of them were a bit further away at different parts of the forest. Academy students training, he guessed, stronger than average academy students. Then there were the high-level signatures that were trailing after him. There were 30 people altogether, and he mentally thanked Yugo for insisting he train his ability to sense chakra signatures. He was tense, ready to fight at moment's notice. Then there were 2 familiar chakra signatures in conflict. His curiosity peaks a bit and he heads off in that direction. He arrives to a curious scene indeed. Iruka and Mizuki were fighting a death match. Mizuki was carrying a large scroll and Iruka was trying to get it from him. Naruto focuses on the scroll, trying to find out what scroll it was. It was then that Iruka spoke. Mizuki, I will not let you take away the scroll. I'll kill you if I have to. Mizuki grins and says, go ahead and try, Iruka. We both know that you're weak and near dead already. This scroll belongs to me now. With this scroll I'll become unstoppable. Naruto then sees the title of the scroll. Forbidden Jutsus. Now normally Naruto would have just stood by and watched Mizuki decapitate Iruka and leave, but that scroll was called the Forbidden Scroll. It was a scroll that held some of Konoha's most devastating jutsus within it. And he aimed to be the most devastating ninja. So naturally, when Mizuki charged, he leapt down and intercepted Mizuki with his foot and snatched the scroll from his hands. Mizuki gets back to his feet and glares at Naruto, who was examining the scroll. Hey, give that back, brat, it's mine. Naruto pays him no attention. He merely opens the scroll and looks at the first jutsu. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Interesting. And Naruto don't. Those jutsus are highly dangerous. They could kill you, says Iruka. Naruto shrugs and says, staying in this village could kill me, yet I'm still here. He then proceeds to practice the hand sign for the Kage Bunshin. Mizuki scowls and says, I'll kill you, monster, and I'll be taking that scroll. Naruto looks over at Mizuki with a glare. No one called him a monster. Ignorant Konoha dumbass, he says before vanishing. A second later, a fist buries itself in Mizuki's gut and slams him into a tree. Naruto glares into Mizuki's eyes and pulls out a kunai. I'm getting tired of your mouth. Mizuki grins evilly and says, I bet you want to know why everyone hates you, correct? Naruto stops. Iruka, don't, that's forbidden. Mizuki looks into Naruto's eyes and continues. You want to know why they shun you, treat you like garbage, and warn their children about you? It because, he never finishes because Naruto had hit the nerve and shut down his voice box, much like the woman earlier. Mizuki Baka, you think I do know already know why? You're a fool. Mizuki's eyes widen. It's because I'm a Jinchuriki. The holder of the Kyuubi no Kitsune. Everybody should know that. I put it in my warning almost 2 years ago. He jams his kunai into Mizuki's throat and pulls out a large scalpel knife. I don't know how useful you'll be as a tool, but I'll give you a try. And before Iruka could protest, Naruto opens up Mizuki's rib cage and begins to literally dissect the man. Up in the trees, Danzo signals with his hands, OKD it now. Hi. 30 root Anbu leap from the trees and surround Naruto, who merely looks up and says, about time you fools showed yourselves. Iruka widens his eyes. Uruka-san, take the forbidden scroll back to Sarutobi-san, says Danzo. Uruka looks worriedly at Naruto, who was still working on Mizuki's corpse. We aren't here to attack him unless he is uncooperative. Now leave, says Danzo. Uruka nods, not knowing what else to do, and leaps away with the scroll. Naruto now looks at Danzo with a bit of a glare. Danzo approaches Naruto but stays a good distance away from him. Uzumaki-san, I have an offer for you. Scene change. Yugo was walking down the street with her friend Hayate when they are suddenly attacked by a huge ink lion. They leap to the side and run off to one of the training grounds to keep the civilians out of the way. Once they do, they turn to face their foe. It was a young man Naruto's age. He was dressed in black and had a bit of a pale complexion even in the dark. He had black hair and no emotions. An ink brush and a scroll was in his hands. Who is this kid? Asks Hayate. Yugo glares and says, his name is Sai of Root Anbu. Sai nods and says, that's right, and for failing to follow Danzo-sama's instructions you are to be put to death. A second later, a huge ink dragon burst from Sai's scroll. Naruto removes his arms from Mizuki's chest and stands to face Danzo. An offer, you say? He asks. Danzo smirks a bit and nods. Naruto looks up in thought. Attack plans were already forming in his head. And what make you think I'll join your little group of lapdogs? Danzo smirks a bit more and gestures with his hands. The 30 Anbu subordinates take up fighting stances and begin to enclose around the boy. Naruto-san, it would be wise for you to join me. We wouldn't want any unfortunate accidents. Naruto glares. Danzo-san, that is the second time you have placed a threat upon me. I think it's time for me to show you what that means. Danzo smirks a bit more and says, it is not wise to threaten me, let alone think you and attack me. Naruto scoffs. Many have said that and all have died. That fool back there is a prime example, says Naruto as he points to Mizuki's mutilated corpse. Some of Danzo's forces cringe a bit. Danzo narrows his eyes. Root is on a whole other level than that fool. Naruto looks up in thought. Still, it does not matter to me. I am not an idiot and I refuse to be used for your own selfish gains. I know your type. You see me as a weapon that needs to be controlled or discarded. I am no mere object, fool. I have a will of my own. So I'm taking it you refuse to join me. Naruto scoffs. What was your first clue, old man? No, I won't be joining your little organization for one reason. He drops his scalpel and begins to flip through hand signs. Danzo, although joining your group would benefit me greatly and I could easily obtain more strength, you and you little lap dogs have threatened my life. No one does that and lives to brag to the whole world about it, and that my dear old man is something that takes more precedence than gaining more power. I will put up with no one's crap above all other issues, be it offers of power, protection, or any other. That is my way. Danzo glares. And besides, I am not a ninja. I failed the graduation exam and therefore cannot join Root Anbu without permission from Hokage Jiji. It was then that Danzo recognizes with stunned shock what hand signs Naruto was doing. Clear the area, he yells, but it was too late. Naruto slams his hands into the ground and says in a voice void of all emotion as a massive amount of chakra explodes off of him and spirals upward, fire release. Scene change. The village of Konoha was in an uproar. The people had gathered and were standing in front of Sarutobi prepared for battle. News of the stolen scroll spread rapidly after Iruka had returned with it. Also, the news of Naruto's presence had riled the people up. They were glad to be granted the chance to kill the boy now that he was out of his home. They waited eagerly for Sarutobi's order to go and hunt down the boy. Their weapons were drawn and their adrenaline was high. Sarutobi clears his throat in order to gain everyone's attention. But what he gets isn't silence. It was gasps of surprise. What the hell is that? Yells one villager in a voice full of fear while pointing at something behind Sarutobi. The old Hokage raises an eyebrow. What are you all pointing at? He turns around and gasps. All he could think to say was, no way. Hiyashi isn't going to be happy, as a huge blaring orange flaming dandelion burst from the trees and towers above in the distance about half-mile out. The villagers were captivated by the beauty of the flaming flower and could do nothing more than watch in awe as it began to rain fireballs down upon the surrounding area. Whomever that was hitting was one poor son of a bitch, that's for sure. That is what most of the observers thought. Sarutobi on the other hand was worried. The Hyugas hadn't used that move in years and only one other person has had access to the Hyuga scrolls recently and not many have the chakra capacity to make the flower that big. Shit. Naruto. He yells. He was getting ready to jet off in that direction when a huge black dragon suddenly rises above the north side of Konoha and gives a mighty roar. Shit. What is going on? Quickly get over there everybody. Asuma. Kurenai. Kakashi. Anko. Ibiki. Come with me. I think Naruto is in a fight with Danzo. What? No time. Come on. Scene change. Sasuke was about a mile away from Naruto training in solitude when he saw it. The flaming dandelion appeared towering above the trees. What the hell? He says as he take off in its direction. Scene change. Hanabi and Hinata had bulging white eyes. They knew what that was. They had learned about it from their father a couple of years back. Come on Hinata, says Hanabi as she grabs her older sister by the hand and races off with her. Scene change. Neji was also staring with wide eyes. This jutsu. He takes off in that direction. He had to know who was doing that move. Scene change. Tsuchi was the closest one to Naruto. He doesn't say anything as the giant flower rises from the ground. He merely jets off in that direction with a raised eyebrow. And his sitar poised for battle. Scene change. The distant form of the dandelion glowed brightly in the distance and illuminated the scene of northern Konoha. Yugo looks at Hayate. Hayate looks at Yugo. They both look at the huge ink dragon, then at Sai. Then they vanish. Sai had no time to react. Just who do you think you are, brat? Asks Yugo as she slams her fist into the boy's stomach and sends him smashing into the wall. Hayate had leapt up and tore the dragon apart with his dance of the crescent moon. Sai shakily gets to his feet and smirks before bursting into ink. Shit, where are you, coward? Above you, Yugo leaps to the side to avoid a claw slash from an ink tiger. Please, brat, fire release. Fire dragon. Sai has to abandon his perch or get incinerated along with it. As he soared through the air, Hayate appears and slams the butt of his katana into his temple, sending him back toward Yugo, who had an almost devilish smirk on her face. Sigh of root Anbuha. You die. Earth release. Earth javelin. She slams her hands into the ground and a large spike of earth bursts from the ground and soars at Sai. He does a quick replacement but is intercepted once again by Hayate, who slashes his legs. Sai grunts in pain and collapses to the ground, bleeding from his calves and his mouth. Damn it. I need more training. Yugo glares and says, Danzo is a fool to have sent someone of your level, Sai. What are you thinking? Just then the other ninjas of the Konoha arrive on the scene. Wait, says Yugo. She approaches Sai and burns his scrolls and ink with a small fire jutsu. You're helpless, Sai. Don't try anything. Sai just looked up at her with lifeless eyes. Eyes that revealed to her a child who has been stripped of everything that made him human, leaving a mere shell of himself behind. A young man whose sole purpose in life was to fight and serve like a loyal slave. Blindly devoting himself to Danzo and Danzo alone. Inoichi Yamanaka approaches and asks, Yugo-san, who is this boy? Yugo looks down and says, he Danzo's student. Take him to the prison chambers, please. Inoichi looks down at the boy and says, it's like he's a machine. Yugo nods as the Yamanaka clan head picks the boy up and vanishes. Hayate looks at Yugo and asks, what the hell is going on? Yugo sighs and says, it's Naruto. I think he's in a fight with Root. Hayate widens his eyes and grabs Yugo's shoulder. Where is he? He asks. Yugo eyes the dandelion and says, the forest. Head for the flower. Hayate nods and vanishes with Yugo. Scene change. A hellish firestorm of death. That's what could describe the scene around Naruto. His body was covered in flames that swirled violently around him and towered in the form of the stem of a plant that rose up and connected to a blazing flower. 15 of Danzo's Anbu had been caught up in that attack. And the others had barely managed to get out of range. They didn't know what hit them. All they could remember was rain. Thousands, perhaps millions of tiny balls of flames that poured down from the top of the flaming dandelion like a hailstorm from the depths of Hades itself. Nothing within the immediate area survived. Everything was incinerated or up in flames right now. Naruto honestly hadn't expected that. He stood staring in front of him at the destruction the tears of the dandelion had wrought. There were several still barely alive roots struggling to stay away from the fires that kept coming to life. He smirks a minute later and dissipates the jutsu. He now knew why the Hyugas were deemed the most powerful clan in Konoha and why these jutsus were no longer used. They were powerful and sapped chakra like Kid on Lemonade. He was panting a bit but otherwise he was fine. Danzo, get out here and fight me, he says as he slashes the throat of another helpless root sending blood all over. He receives his answer in the form of the other 15 root ANBUS dropping from the trees in front of him. Uzumaki, you'll pay for that, says one of them. Naruto smirks and does a few more hand signs. False freedom. The Anbu break Naruto's personal genjutsu with little difficulty. Don't toy with us, Uzumaki. Naruto scowls and draws his katana. The roots smirk behind their masks before vanishing. Bam. Naruto receives a vicious kick to his head and then a punch to his mid-back. He skids across the forest floor for a second before jamming his katana into the ground. Earth release. Earth Dragon Bomb. Naruto widens his eyes and leaps to the side just as several fist-sized earth bullets whizzed past his head and tore through the trees behind him like paper towels. TCH, damn it, he mutters as he reaches down to his ankles. I don't know how fast I am compared to your forces, Danzo, but I won't get made a fool of tonight. He unclasps the weights on his ankles, then unclasps the weights on his wrists before tearing off his tattered cloak, revealing a bare chest and a bandaged wrapped torso along with a chain scythe, a small war hammer and a patch of Senbon needles. He glares as Danzo's taunting voice rings throughout the area. You wear orange. Quite unbefitting of someone of your caliber. Are you so arrogant to believe it does not matter who sees you? Naruto glances down at his baggy, slightly tattered orange shorts and smirks. Arrogance is but a tool to get you killed, Danzo. And your arrogance will be your downfall. He then vanishes. The roots were slightly surprised at the boy's speed but were still able to track him. The leader draws his katana and blocks Naruto's sudden downward slash. What he didn't expect was for Naruto's other hand to lash out and jam a poisoned Senbon into his neck. He collapses in a seizure. Naruto smirks and ducks, narrowly avoiding a decapitating slash from a katana from behind. He then leaps high into the air. 5 of the roots follow, much to Naruto's pleasure. Danzo, I may not be more powerful than your lackeys, but I am definitely smarter. He then channels a bit of chakra and begins to rotate. Ninja art. Senbon storm. Naruto's entire body began to glow with seals as he spun, and before the 5 roots could question what the hell Naruto was doing, they are assaulted by a massive wave of Senbon needles. The weapons flew from the seals on his body in all directions with deadly accuracy and force. 4 of the ninjas were killed while the last one somehow managed to block most of them and keep himself alive. As he and his dead teammates plummeted back to the ground, Naruto speaks again. I knew this day would come, Danzo. I have taken all of the necessary preparations. I have many tricks up my sleeve. The surviving root of Naruto's Senbon storm couldn't help but feel his respect for Naruto increase. right up until his head is removed by Naruto's sword. Ingenious, he mutters right before he hit the ground with a bit of force. Naruto merely looks at the downed man before vanishing again. Clashes of metal could be heard and sparks could be seen appearing at random spots of the battle's field. Another root falls to Naruto's katana. He had gotten cocky and dropped his guard. Somewhere a bit of a distance away Danzo was smirking. Amazing Naruto-san. He then gestures with his wrist and the rest of the members of Root appear. There were 60 of them and each was kneeling. Kill that Jinchuriki, he commands simply. The ninjas nod and vanish. 6 Root Anbu were left. They were panting a bit and Naruto stood in front of them. His body was covered in cuts and bruises. One eye was closed and his katana had been broken. Blood was dripping from his mouth, arms and chest. Looks like all those spars with Yugo-san are actually paying off, he says as he draws the battle chain in one hand and the hammer in the other. The Root Anbu were a bit weary of Naruto now. His speed was below theirs but his reflexes, intelligence and ingenious placement of traps on his body had made up for that. Every time one of them would hit a right spot on Naruto a trap would be triggered. Senbon or any other variety of weapons coated in poison would shoot from a hidden seal and incapacitate the attacker. On top of that was his skill in other weapons. At one time an axe had burst from a seal on his chest and he had wielded it effortlessly and used it to behead the man in front of him before it shattered like glass. They were weary because striking Naruto could cost them their lives. This boy had come fully prepared knowing he couldn't beat them in a contest of pure sword fighting and jutsu wielding. Like the Kitsune he was hated for he had a mastery over tricks and deception. He was a worthy opponent. Danzo, show yourself, he says. He was reaching his limit and the weapon storing seals on his body were running out. He had to locate Danzo and end this. The 6 in front of him take up stances again. You shall not harm Danzo-sama, they say before vanishing again. Without thinking Naruto channels chakra into the seals on his body and releases all of the remaining weapons stored within him. Ninja art. Metal hailstorm. Shuriken, kunai, senbon needles and hundreds of different daggers flew from the seals on Naruto's body and tore through the 6 Anbu who had rushed in foolishly hoping to end this battle. They knew this was a foolish thing to do but they would throw their lives away for Danzo-sama. It was their way. Their code. They could not let this boy get to him. After he had called for their leader for what must have been the 10th time they realized that Naruto is after Danzo's life and would let nothing stop him from accomplishing his goal. Should he get to him Danzo would surely be killed. They couldn't let this happen. Even at the cost of their lives so they stalled him and emptied him of his weapons storing seals. That was so the reinforcements that were coming wouldn't be burdened by Naruto's trap. As the 6 ninja dropped dead around Naruto the rest of Root Anbu arrived on the scene. They landed in front of Naruto and gazed at the destruction before them, and the source of it all standing in the middle of it all. Flames continued to dance all over the area and the smell of death was beginning to linger in the air. Naruto looks at the newcomers and glares. Is your precious leader so worthy of having such a force throw away their lives for him? He asks. The ninja at the front of the group steps forward and says, We of Root will do anything for Danzo-sama. One such as you who merely lives for himself could never hope to understand. You who has become a monster could never understand how we humans feel. Naruto sighs and bites his thumb. You may be right. He slides his bleeding thumb across the seals on his right forearm and Fox Naruto, Oni Tenshi and Yoshino appear in puffs of smoke. I who has felt nothing but hatred from you all could never understand. You who all have been coddled and loved by someone in your lives have a valid reason for judging me. You who have never had to life through the hatred of an entire ninja village have a perfectly valid reason for seeing me the way you do. Fox Naruto draws its Zanbeitu, Oni Tenshi draws its axe and extends the tentacles and Yoshino takes up a Juken stance. Naruto looks down with his hair covering his eyes as he drops the battle chain and grips the hammer tighter in the hand not controlling his puppets. You all don't have to deal with what I have to. Naruto looks back up with the fires of determination and hatred burning in his eyes and his chakra spiking to high levels again. You don't know the obstacles I have had to overcome. The pain I went through that day 2 years ago. You don't know what it's like to realize that no one will ever be there to help you. To realize that you were chosen as a sacrifice by the Yondaime to seal a demon within merely to save a village that probably deserved the death the demon was administering upon it. Up in the trees there were several gasps. Hinata, Hanabi, Sasuke, Neji and Tsuchi had arrived just as Naruto killed those last 6 Anbu and watched as the rest of them made themselves known. They didn't pay any attention to each other and merely stood there frozen. Naruto has a demon sealed in him. But that can't be true, unless it was Tsuchi who came to the conclusion first. Naruto held the Kyuubi no Kitsune within him. The demon that was so frequently talked about all over Konoha. This revelation causes him to gasp. I see, says Neji as he unconsciously touches the seal on his forehead. He looks over at Hinata and Hanabi who both had tears in their eyes. Sasuke could only stare at Naruto. This blonde, killing, emotionless boy has a demon sealed within him and judging from what he says it was the Kyuubi. His respect for Naruto increased several-fold. The group of 5 watches as the members of Root circle around Naruto and prepare to attack. They watch as Naruto himself prepare to rush into battle with the aid of his 3 puppets. We have to help him, whispers Hinata. This draws the attention of the other 4. They look into her eyes and see the flame of determination. Tsuchi opens his case quietly and grabs his sitar. Yeah, slowly one by one the flames of determination ignite within each preteen. Naruto smiles as the Root Anbu begin to circle around him, blocking any chance for escape. But no worries. It's all in the past. I am not as angsty as I may sound right now. He twitches his fingers and his puppets take defensive stances around him. Should I be killed here tonight, know that you must have a bit of skill. His grin grows a bit more. But should you all be killed, know you will serve a new master. The lead Anbu smirks and says, we are not like the fodder you have just dispatched Uzumaki. On top of that you are weak and half dead already. You will die. Oni Tenshi suddenly raises its shield and blocks a barrage of kunai. Naruto smirks. You all have to do better than that, fools. The lead Anbu smirks. Naruto, don't waste our time. Come with us. It is your last chance. Naruto glares. Why do you bunch of fools want so badly for me to join your group? It is not us who wish for you to join our ranks. It is the will of Danzo-sama. He sees potential in you, boy. And when Danzo deems you worthy of his attention, you do not ignore him. If you do so, you are severely punished or, in your case, killed. Naruto glares and prepares to charge. I have made my decision. Tch, very well then. It was then that the battle of his life had started. The forces of Root surged forward like a wave of cloaked and masked death and converged upon Naruto with a single desire. The brutal ending of Naruto's life. Fox Naruto's tail split open and a wave of Senbon surged forth from the opening and into the wave. Oni Tenshi raises its shield-less arm and one of the canisters burst open and shoots a stream of fire. Yoshino takes up a stance and begins to throw chakra from her palms. One after another fell to the attacks of Naruto's puppets, but it wasn't enough. These Anbu were ready and well coordinated. They were easily adept at fighting in groups and against weapons such as Naruto's puppets. On top of that, Naruto was tired already. He leaps up and his puppets leap off in different directions. It was either fight or die. He dodges and blocks punches, kicks and swords while keeping solid control over his puppets. Give it up, Uzumaki. I know your weakness. You may be good at taijutsu while not worried about other matters, but now that you have your puppets out, you're doomed. Naruto takes a slash to the leg. but it only served to enrage him. He gets glint in his eye that causes the insulter's teammates to give out a warning. Hey, look out. But it was too late. Naruto had reached into his bandages and pulled out a pair of spiked brass knuckles. He slams his fist into the man's throat and watches in satisfaction as he drops. Fool, I may be a puppeteer, but I have overcome that weakness. I can engage in a full taijutsu match while simultaneously controlling my puppets. Do not underestimate me. You bastard. 3 more Anbu had converged upon him. He was overwhelmed and sent skidding across the forest floor toward Fox Naruto, whose movement had stopped due to Naruto's sudden incapacitation. Oni Tenshi had stopped as well, with his tentacles impaled through the stomachs of 3 roots. Shit. Naruto quickly re-engages his puppets in battle with their opponents. Naruto was in pain. The wounds he had taken were healing a lot slower than usual and his fingers were getting tired. Still, he had to persevere. He wasn't about to lose to these bastards. He looks up at the smirking faces of his opponents and glares. 10 faces were looking down at him while the others were still trying to take out his puppets. Ack. Another falls to Fox Naruto's sword. Immobilize Uzumaki's hands. Another Anbu right before he too is killed by Yoshino and a Juken strike to the heart. The ninjas around Naruto smirk and one grabs Naruto's war hammer. Let's see who good he is without his precious dolls, he says. Naruto rolls to the side to avoid getting his hand smashed but are met with a vicious kick and a katana stabbing into his thigh. He grunts out in pain but does not scream. He was not weak. He would not give these bastards the satisfaction of seeing weakness. Blood was pouring out of his leg but he kept his fingers moving. Oni Tenshi spreads its wing and unleashes a wave of blades disguised as feathers. All 4 of the Anbu facing the puppet are killed quickly. Naruto does a couple of hand signs and says, "Ninja art, feather swarm." The feathers of Onitenshi's wing begin to swirl violently around it and slash at anyone who got too close. Unfortunately for the 5 more roots who had decided to charge Oni Tenshi. Naruto smirks at the satisfying sounds of flesh being sliced apart and screams of pain echoing through the air. Don't smirk, demon, just because you have managed to kill a few of us. Don't get cocky. Naruto receives a powerful punch to the jaw. I'm going to beat you within an inch of your pathetic life, then we're going to take you to Danzo-sama so he can deliver the final blow himself, understand? Crack. Naruto's eyes widen as Fox Naruto is lanced through with 6 katanas. Hee, you're losing your control, demon, says the Anbu. Naruto glares and jerks his fingers a few more times. Fox Naruto's tail split open again and reveal 9 poison-tipped swords. Before the Anbu holding the swords in the puppet could react, they are stabbed and killed, pumped full of poison. Arg. Those hands of yours. Naruto hisses as his hands are stabbed with swords, effectively ending the puppet's movements. The 3 weapons drop to the ground motionless and vulnerable. This was it, Naruto realized. These bunch of Konoha bastards were about to kill him. He silently counts all of the root Anbu as they converged upon him again. He nods in satisfaction as he counts 30 survivors. It was merely sheer numbers and exhaustion that had led to their victory. Heh, Naruto-san, you really are a brutal, aren't you? Just look at all these bodies. Naruto widens his eyes a bit as Danzo emerges from the shadows. He walks up Naruto and grins from behind his bandages. You put up quite a fight, but it looks like it ends here. Such a shame. You are a perfect candidate for root. Naruto scowls and says, you old man, with no signs of pain or anger in his voice. Danzo glares and raises his cane. A jagged blade protrudes from the bottom and glistens eerily in the light of the fires burning all around the area. Now Uzumaki, time to die. Fire release. Grand fireball. The forces of Root had to leap away as a huge fireball falls from the sky. Danzo glares as 5 figures jump from the trees. What is the meaning of this? We will not let you hurt him, says a quiet female voice. That's right. You old man will pay for what you are doing, says a younger female voice. The five-figure rise from their crouching positions and glare at Danzo. Danzo widens his eyes then smirks. Well well well. 3 Hyuga children, the last Uchiha and the sitar-using orphan. How touching. Sasuke glares and draws a kunai. Hinata give him a couple of soldier pills, says Hanabi. Hinata nods and crouches beside Naruto, who looks on in confusion. What are you doing? Tsuchi looks back at Naruto and says, "We're savin' your ass, blondie. No one should have to put up with the shit you're going through without friends." Naruto chuckles. I have no need for friends. Acquaintances whatever. The point is we're here to help. Danzo smirks and says, incapacitate them but do not kill them. Hi Danzo-sama. Hinata jams 3 soldier pills down Naruto's throat before he could object and leaps into battle alongside the others. Naruto watches on as Neji performs a perfect cadence to throw the 6 anbu surrounding him. He watches as Tsuchi swings his sitar around by a handle connected to the end of the weapon instrument and sliced 3 of his opponents. He watches as even Hinata takes out a couple of people. He sighs. Those fools are lucky Danzo doesn't want them dead. He could feel his hands healing and a bit of his chakra returning. Just a bit longer and Danzo's head would be his. Hinata duck, yells Hanabi as a kunai soars at her sister from behind. Tsuchi intercepts the attack and throws his own kunai. Stay together as a group, commands Neji as he jukens another man in the knee, dropping him. The 5 preteens stood protectively around Naruto and deflected any attacks they could. Unfortunately, there was just too many of them. Hanabi was stabbed in the shoulder while she was blocking an attack from the left. Sasuke was kicked viciously and had 5 ribs broken. Neji was hit with mild exploding notes and temporarily blinded in the right eye. Hinata was hit with a slow-acting poison and Tsuchi was stabbed in the stomach by a katana. Hinata gasps. Heh, some no-name demon-loving orphan. No one will miss you, the man had said right before her was jukened in the back by Hanabi. Why you bastard, says Tsuchi while coughing up blood. He positions his sitar as if he was going to play it and does just that. I am the second remaining member of my clan. You know what we specialized in? No one answers. We specialized in summons via musical instruments. He then begins to play a tune. It was an ominous tune filled with sorrow and anger. Taste my music. A second later, a huge white wolf emerges from Tsuchi's sitar and proceeds to slash and bite at all of the enemies in front of it, but that's not all. The chakra of the people it hit was consumed. Tsuchi continues to play his tune, ignoring his gaping wound and the sword still impaled in him. Fire was burning in his eyes. You won't kill this guy. I won't let you, he screams. The Anbu were leaping all over the place to avoid Tsuchi's wolf. The others' eyes had also lit up with flames and they too began to attack more relentlessly. Hanabi, Neji and Sasuke charged at speeds that no one of their level should have and slashed and stabbed with their kunai hands. Danzo was staring with wide eyes. Just where did these children come from? There is no way they are that powerful. He watches as Sasuke, despite having broken ribs, manages to lodge a kunai in the skull of one of his subordinates. It's not possible. These kids. Hanabi grabs a stray katana and leaps into a group of 10. Kaden. She spins violently while holding the sword out and making her attack even more devastating. Danzo watches with a scowl as he realizes that he is losing his forces to a bunch of children. Children who wished to protect this demon with their lives. Kill them. Kill them all, he screams. And in a flash the tide had turned. Killing intent was unleashed. There were 25 root Anbu left, but all that was needed. They charge forward. Water release. Cry of the splitting daisy. No one knows when Naruto had recovered some strength. They were all too focused on attacking the others. But everyone once again became aware of his presence the moment he yelled out that jutsu. Get down, yells Neji. Naruto slams his hands into the ground and expels the rest of his chakra. I will not lose. Danzo. He screams as the air above him compresses and takes the form of a glowing blue daisy made of water. Naruto leaps up and karate chops the flower with his right hand. It was instant. The flower explodes into water droplets shaped like needles and shower down upon everything around them. The remaining forces of Danzo's route were assaulted. The needles tore through some of them and froze, coating the area in a fine layer of ice and snow. Others were grazed or hit in non-vital areas but still had that area froze over. Neji, Hinata, and Hanabi looked on in awe as the water effectively wipes out half of the enemies in front of them. They could only stare and Naruto collapses to his knees panting heavily. Take care of the rest, he says before he passes out. But they couldn't. They too were at their limits. They too were spent and injured. Tsuchi was already unconscious. The remaining 20 Root Anbu ninjas surge forward yet again and this time met no resistance. Tsuchi is slashed deeply across his lower back, effectively paralyzing him. Sasuke was kicks in the temple and knocked out. Hinata and Hanabi had already passed out due to poisoning and Neji was stabbed in the stomach. He screams out in pain and passes out. The air was a bloodbath. Over 80 ninjas had been killed this night. 80 members of Root had been slain, by children. Danzo approaches an unconscious Naruto with hatred burning in high eyes. Look what you have done, monster. You have nearly ruined me. I'll kill you. Danzo raises his cane but suddenly gasps. The reason was because a sword had suddenly burst from his chest where his heart was located. Not today, Danzo. Danzo coughs up blood and turns around and gasps. There stood Sarutobi, Ibiki, Kakashi, Asuma, Anko, Kurenai, Yugo and Hayate. Why you? He never finishes his sentence as his life leaves him. Yugo yanks her katana from Danzo's back and watches as he collapses, dead. Sarutobi glares at the remaining Anbu of Root and vanishes. None of them stood a chance. Just as Sarutobi reappears in his previous location, the Root members scream out in pain and blood bursts from their necks. They drop dead. Sarutobi looks around the battlefield in amazement. Unfucking believable, exclaims Anko. Naruto, yells Yugo as she rushes to his side. The others approach as well and widen their eyes when they see Tsuchi, Sasuke, and the 3 Hyugas. Sarutobi looks in disdain at Danzo's cops. Attacking children and going behind my back. Danzo, what the hell were you thinking? He approaches the group of downed children and looks at them proudly. We need to get them to the hospital. They're all severely injured or suffering from chakra exhaustion. Yells Kurenai. Sarutobi nods. Okay, get them to the hospital now. We will clean up this mess later. Hi. Each person grabs a genin and leaps back toward Konoha. Sarutobi and Yugo stayed behind. Naruto was held in her arms. Sarutobi does a few water jutsus to put out the fires and then does the shadow clone. Each clone grabs a puppet and Tsuchi's sitar. Danzo, it looks like the light of the flame within this boy has withered your roots. I hope you think about that in the afterlife. He then turns and heads back to Konoha himself. Yugo had stayed behind a bit longer. Naruto, you worried me, she mumbles as he hugs him tighter. Don't ever do that again, please. Naruto's eyes crack open just a bit and he mumbles 2 words. Yugo, chan. Danzo is what was heard all throughout Konoha that next morning. Word had spread so quickly that no one had a chance to stop it. Everyone in Konoha now knew that not only Naruto but also 5 other genin had wiped out most of Root Anbu before Sarutobi took care of the rest. The council was not happy. No, they were outraged and scared at the same time. And the fact that their Hokage stood on the side of Naruto didn't help the matter either. The clan heads of the Yamanaka, the Akamichi, the Nara and the Inuzuka could be seen smirking on that day. Hokage-sama, are you serious? They're all dead. Sarutobi shook his head and said, actually no. A few did manage to survive. It was a spectacular battle. Naruto had outsmarted most of them with traps placed on his own body before using his puppets and two flower-style techniques. And that was before the 5 others came to his assistance. At this, Hiashi had stood up. Hokage-sama, do you seriously think I would believe that not one, but both of my daughters and my nephew ran off to assist this boy? Sarutobi nodded with a smirk. If you do not believe me, you can visit them at the hospital and question them yourself. They should be awake now, as the medics did an excellent job at healing them. Hiashi sat back down with a heavy sigh. Hokage-sama, I do not understand. They don't even know that boy. Why would they help him? Sarutobi grinned and said, perhaps it was the skill he showed that day he fought you. Maybe they took his words to heart and decided to follow their own paths. Paths of their choosing. So you're saying the demon is corrupting others with his malicious intent? This came from a civilian council member. No, I'm saying we should look into my crystal ball and you all will see what I mean. Sarutobi then gestured toward his desk where the shiny sphere sat, unused for the moment. Scene change. As soon as Naruto opened his eyes, he was grabbed in a hug from Yugo. Naruto. I'm glad you're okay. Naruto nodded and pushed the woman off of him. A practice that became almost normal in his life. So we won, huh? He said to no one as he slid out of his bed and stood while stretching. Yugo smiled and raised herself to her full height, which was a foot over Naruto's head. She couldn't help but stare at the boy as he began to wander around the room collecting his personal items. She wanted to get close to him to become someone special to him. She sighed. He needed more time, despite his calling her Yugo-chan the night before. She watched as he located his puppets and sealed them back into his arm, then found his shorts and slipped them back on. What happened to those fools? Yugo's thoughts had been shattered by that sudden question. What was he talking about? What fools? Wait. Do you mean the other 5? Naruto nodded. They're fine. They're all in the large room 3 doors down and to the right. Wait, Naruto, where are you going? Before Yugo had even been halfway done with her sentence, Naruto had turned and left the room. She quickly recovered and followed him as he headed toward the door she had described just a few seconds ago. Without a word, Naruto entered the room and looked around. Yugo came in a second later and placed a hand on his shoulder. All of them were there. All 5 of them, and they were staring at him. Hinata reacted first. She eeped and hid slightly behind her blankets and eyed Naruto nervously. Hanabi was staring at Naruto with a look of contemplation and wonder. Neji had nodded in his direction before looking back out the window, and Sasuke was looking on with respect etched into his features. Wait, there was still one missing. Yo. So you finally awake, huh? Freakin' took long enough. Naruto turned to his right and saw Tsuchi. He was grinning and holding his sitar in his lap. Evidence that he had been playing it a moment before. Naruto felt his eyes widen just a bit as the reddish-pink-haired boy rolled into the room in a wheelchair. Like Neji and Sasuke, his upper body was bare and wrapped up in bandages. He still had on his shorts, but that was it. Naruto continued to stare for a few more seconds before his knowledge of the human body kicked in. Paralyzed from the waist down due to a slash across the back from a katana. Your ninja career has been ended before it even began. Tsuchi just grinned a bit more. Yeah, sucks, don't it? All just to save your doll using ass. All you fools did was nearly get yourselves killed. Yeah, whatever. Naruto sighs. You are all a group of idiots. What the hell did you think you could accomplish against an Anbu, let alone a large group of them? At this, it was Sasuke who spoke up. Oi Baka, in case you hadn't noticed, you were about to get filleted when we showed up. I didn't ask for your help. Nor will I ever. We realize that, Naruto, said Hanabi. But that doesn't change the fact that you have help from us whenever things get too rough for you. Naruto scoffs. If you guys were any older, I'd kill you for being hypocrites. Neji smirks. But we're not hypocrites now, are we? We aren't part of the generation that was attacked by the Kyuubi and therefore cannot become hypocrites when we decide not to hate you for what you hold. Naruto's eyes widened. Who told you? Tell me now or you'll regret it. The tone in his face let them know that he was not playing around. Tsuchi sighed and said, "Geez, calm down. Nobody told us. We were there when you started yapping about your life to that old man. We heard you tell the man that the demon Kyuubi was inside of you. I gotta tell you, it explains a lot." The other four nodded while Yugo's hand tightened a bit on Naruto's shoulder. Naruto himself had relaxed only slightly and he was prepared to strike should any of them start saying the wrong things. Sasuke and Hanabi seemed to notice this and approached him. Once they were close enough, Sasuke reached his hand out while Hanabi wrapped her small arms around his waist in a hug. "Even if you still dislike us, know that we will never see you as the Kyuubi. Even if you should for some reason, snap and murder everyone in the village. We all know you are justified in your feelings," said Sasuke. "That's right, Naruto-san. We don't fully understand everything that is going on, but we are willing to learn. Everyone needs allies no matter who they are. We are willing to become your allies, Naruto." Neji and Hinata approached next. "That's right, Uzumaki. You have earned my respect and my allegiance." "Mine too," said Hinata. Naruto couldn't really think of anything to say. These fools were willing to become his allies. People who would fight alongside him and not with the dumbass villagers. He closed his eyes then snapped them open again a second later as he felt a pair of lips on his own. "You have my allegiance as well, Naruto-kun," said Yugo. Scene change. Hiyashi and the council watched the scene with wide eyes. The Uchiha heir, the Hyuga branch prodigy, youngest main house prodigy and the heiress had just pledged their allegiance to the demon brat. And to top it off, one of Konoha's top Anbu had apparently developed feelings for him. This was bad. Sarutobi cleared his throat and said, "Now I know what some of you are thinking and I warn you right now as my standing regarding Naruto has not changed. You all need to stop and think about what you are all doing before you begin to actively hunt the boy. We are losing shinobi to him and I will not allow that. Konoha is losing power because of the ignorance of the village. Hokage-sama, you must understand that what we of the council do regarding that boy is merely for the well-being of the entire village. He is corrupting others already and needs to be taken care of." Sarutobi glared and said, "Make a move on him and I'll allow him to kill you myself." He turned back toward the crystal ball. "Naruto deserves to have friends and happiness. You all have no right to try and rob him of that. What that demon deserves to be is eliminated." Sarutobi, open your eyes. The Hokage finally had enough and releases killing intent. Silence. The Hokage has spoken. This meeting is adjourned. Oh, and Hiyashi-san, perhaps you should think about your position on this whole affair. After all, the three most promising Hyuga have just allied with Naruto. Will you help them or will you lament in your hatred and lose the three closest to you? And with that, Sarutobi walked out, headed to the hospital. Scene change. Hanabi's eyes widened a bit and Neji noticed that her face flashed with jealousy. For just a split second it was there, but Neji saw it. He decided to leave it alone for now. Naruto gently pushed Yugo away from him. "You are all too close," he said. Tsuchi decided to speak up. "Yo, a bombshell beauty kisses you and you push her away. What the hell is wrong with you, man?" Naruto scoffs. "I have no desire for an intimate relationship with anyone." Tsuchi sighed and said, "You really have been sheltered. Oh well." He wheeled over to Naruto and lifted his sitar toward him. "I'm paralyzed. That means that I can no longer use this as an effective weapon. Well, maybe I could still use it, but I'm in a wheelchair so I won't be going anywhere." He pushed the weapon instrument into Naruto's chest and said, "I want you to learn how to play this. Once you do, come to me again and I'll teach you how to summon the wolf spirit locked within it." Naruto's eyes widened. "You're giving me your weapon?" "PFF'd, I see no reason why not." After all, I'm an ally too, but since I can no longer fight, I'm entrusting you with this instead. Naruto examined the sitar and sighed for what seemed like the 1000th time before strapping the weapon to his back. He was not used to getting gifts. Tsuchi grinned and said, "Oh, and if you ever meet a full-mouthed girl with the same hair color as mine, drag her ass to me so I can blacken one of her eyes. Knock her out if you have to." Sasuke, Neji and Yugo chuckled at this while Naruto merely nodded. Hanabi let go of Naruto and said, "If you want, I can help you with the Juken. I'm sure you haven't perfected Yoshino yet, am I correct?" Naruto said nothing. He merely nodded and looked up in thought. Hanabi smiled a bit. "I'm sure Neji-san and Hinata-ni are willing to help you as well. All three of us use a different variation of the Juken, and I want to see what they all look like when combined into one single fighter. Your puppet, for instance." Naruto looked into everyone's eyes and saw no hints of deception or malice. After a minute he finally nods and says, "Fine, and in exchange I will teach you the forbidden flower jutsus I stole from the Hyuga clan. After all, they're your techniques, and if you are so adamant on helping me, then I might as well help my allies as well." The group grinned a bit and Naruto grabbed Neji's hand in a handshake. Just then the door opened up and Sarutobi walked in. He was smiling a genuine smile when he entered the room, and it seemed to grow when he spotted Naruto exchanging handshakes with everyone. "Ah, Naruto, you are awake," he said with a bit of cheer. Naruto turned to the Hokage and gave a bit of a smile. "Hokage Gigi." The other children were a bit surprised to learn that Naruto was close to the Hokage but decided to say nothing about it. Sarutobi patted Naruto's shoulder, then looked at the other occupants of the room. "First off, I would like to personally congratulate all of you in completing an A-class mission. I don't know how you pulled it off, but you did, and I am glad to call you all ninja of Konoha." Sasuke, Neji, Hinata and Tsuchi swelled up a bit with pride, but Hanabi didn't look too sure. She looked down nervously. Sarutobi noticed this and smiled. "Do not worry, Hyuga-chan, you are included in this praise." Hanabi looked up surprised. "I know you are young, but already you have the strength of a strong ninja. I should probably promote you all to Chunin and Naruto to Junin right now, but the council is already on edge about Naruto's strength, and promoting you all would throw off the graduating teams." Tsuchi chuckled and says, "Well, I'm in a wheelchair anyway, so won't the teams still be uneven?" Sarutobi smiled and said, "Not if I add Hanabi-chan to the ranks." Hanabi gasped and looked up at the Hokage with wide shocked eyes. Sarutobi reached into his robes and pulled out 3 Konoha headbands and throws one each to Sasuke, Hinata and Hanabi. Neji already had one due to being an earlier graduate, and Tsuchi was now unable to fight. "Congratulations on becoming ninja," he said with a smile. He turned to Naruto next and pulled out a custom-made headband. It was orange and the cloth was long. He approached Naruto and tied it securely around his head and smiles as the 2 ends of the cloth hung down to his mid-back. The metal plate was vastly different than any other forehead protector. It still had the leaf symbol, but the symbol was a great deal smaller and in the middle of a fox's forehead. On either side of the forehead were 3 lines identical to Naruto's whisker marks and the kanji for Special Op engraved in small letters at the bottom of the plate. "Naruto, you are now a personal ninja of the Hokage himself. You answer to me and me alone and are eligible for high-ranked missions." This caused numerous gasps. "You have the authority of a Chunin and the protection of the Hokage and several clan heads. Which ones? I'll leave to you to find out. This is an old tradition that hasn't been used since the 3 Sannin were elected, in which the Hokage will choose one or more potential ninja and form a special group, kind of like the Mist Swordsmen. They are called the Konoha Special Ops, and Naruto, you have been chosen as the first member." Sarutobi grinned and headed back toward the door. "Oh, and the bodies of the root are still in the forest. Have a nice day," and with that he was gone. Hanabi was gaping at her headband. Sasuke and Neji were gaping at Naruto and Tsuchi was looking slightly jealous and grumbling something about lucky non-paralyzed people. Naruto stared at the door for a second more before a small smile appeared on his lips. Just the way it should be, Hokage Gigi, he said to himself so that no one else would hear. Naruto. He is lifted into the air and squeezed by an ecstatic Yugo. Congratulations Naruto. Personal ninja to the Hokage himself. That's one hell of an honor. Naruto could only nod slightly as his face is pressed against the purple-haired woman's chest. Yes indeed. Now would you mind putting me down? Yugo blushed and complied with his wish, but as soon as he was put down, the others who felt the need to congratulate him in some way or another surrounded him. Sasuke gave him a curt nod, Neji shook his hand, and Tsuchi slapped him on the shoulder. An action that nearly got a Senbon jammed in his neck out of reflex. Hanabi smiled and gave him a quick hug, and Hinata gave a quiet, "Congratulations Naruto-kun," before hiding a bit behind Neji. We should all go out and celebrate, suggested Tsuchi after a few minutes, but is instantly met with a flat-out refusal. No, was all Naruto needed to say to get his point across. Tsuchi was going to retort, but a slight headshake from Yugo silenced him. Naruto turned towards the door and adjusted the sitar on his back. All of you have my gratitude, he said with no emotion before opening the door and leaving. Geez, he really is cold to everyone, huh? Asked Tsuchi. Yugo nodded and said, yes, he just that way. Serves the village right in my opinion, said Neji. It's their own actions that caused this. Yeah. Scene change. As Naruto made his way through Konoha, heading toward the gate, he took notice of the looks of fear and hate. He ignored them for now. He had one destination and nothing was going to stop him from getting to that destination as soon as possible, so stopping to rip the throat out of that fool who just sneered and called him a demon's freak would have to wait. Villagers shied as far away as possible from him. No doubt fearing what he was capable of, since word of his fight with Root had spread all over. Even the two Chunin at the gate said nothing as he exited the village and headed toward the clearing where last night's battle took place. He walked for an hour until he arrived at the spot. It was a war zone. Scorch marks, weapons, broken trees, craters, and even some wood chippings from his puppets. He looked around at the carnage. Bodies, blood, innards and limbs were everywhere. It looked like the set of a corny horror movie. He looked around for a specific corpse and grinned when he spotted it. Danzo's body lay there in near perfect condition with a stab wound where his heart was. He walked over to the body and said, I told you, and you would die for threatening my life. He then hoisted the body up onto his shoulder and walked over to a reasonably clear area and placed the body down on its back. Now then, he said while looking around. He placed his hands in a cross-shaped hand sign and says, Ninja art, Kage Bunshin. Now the only knowledge Naruto had with this jutsu was the fact that it created solid copies of yourself when executed. He had never before used this jutsu, but his excellent chakra control and knowledge of the jutsu's rank of forbidden gave him all the pieces he needed in order to successfully create 30 copies of himself. He nodded in satisfaction when the clones appeared in puffs of smokes and awaited orders. All right then. Your task is to search the bodies here for the ones that are in the best condition. Bring them to me and arrange them in a neat row on either side of this one, he said while pointing at Danzo's corpse. The clones nodded and leapt off in different directions. He put his hand in the cross symbol again and did the shadow clone once again. 5 clones appeared. You 5 head back to my apartment and bring me my supplies. The clones nodded and dashed off toward Konoha. Naruto knelt down to Danzo and unraveled a scroll while rubbing blood on it. In a puff, a small set of puppet-making tools appeared. Now then Danzo, let's make that old and battered body of yours into something to be proud of. Scene change. Neji, Sasuke, Hinata, Tsuchi, Hanabi and Yugo were walking as a group through Konoha discussing one topic that had their interest. Naruto. Is he really going to do that? Asks a mortified Hinata who had heard little about Naruto's main ninja art. Yugo nodded. Yes, those are all the necessary steps needed in order to make a human puppet. But what does he do with the organs and such? Yugo shook her head. Beats me. I never really hung around after that step. Is that even legal? To mutilate corpses in such a way? Asked an intrigued Hanabi. I mean, I know he turned people into his puppets, but I didn't know you needed to do all of that. Yugo shook her head. In Suna the practice is highly illegal, but this is Konoha and Hokage-sama lets Naruto do pretty much whatever he wants, so I'm guessing it's legal only for Naruto. The group continued to talk about Naruto as they made their way through the village, ignoring the startled looks the villagers were giving them. Man, I'm just glad to finally be an official ninja, said Sasuke. Indeed. And I will further my training and become a member of that special ops with Naruto-san, said Hanabi. The others nodded with slight grins while Tsuchi loudly encouraged them. They didn't notice Yugo smiling warmly as they talked about their new comrade. But suddenly they were cut off as several Hyugas landed in front of them. Neji-san, Hinata-sama, Hanabi-sama, Hiashi-sama wishes to speak with you immediately. Hanabi sighed. Fine then, come on Hinata, she said. And with that the three Hyugas left with the group. Tsuchi looked up at Yugo and Sasuke and said, well, I'll be seeing you guys later. I gotta go and make my place more compatible with wheelchairs. Sasuke nodded and Yugo smiled. After he was gone, Yugo sighed and said, I feel sorry for him. To lose his legs like that. Sasuke nodded. Yes, it is a shame. But like him, we cannot think too much about it. Yugo smirked. This coming from a guy who thinks of killing his brother every waking moment of his life. Sasuke scowled then said, I'm going to see what Naruto actually does to create his puppets. Yugo chuckled as Sasuke left and then vanished, heading toward the Hokage Tower. Scene change. Naruto had just removed the last of Danzo's innards when Sasuke walked into the clearing. Oi, that is seriously messed up, he said. Naruto shrugged and said, all is necessary if I'm to have my tools. Sasuke shrugged and approached him. He tried his best to ignore the pungent smells of rotten embalming fluid and leapt up into a tree to get a better view at what Naruto was doing. 10 minutes later, 30 or so clones stepped into the clearing, each carrying a corpse. Sasuke widened his eyes a bit and wondered when Naruto had learned such a move. He watched as the clones placed their respective bodies next to Danzo's body in a neat organized line. Naruto seemingly ignored the clones until one last one stepped into the clearing carrying a body that Sasuke instantly recognized as their academy teacher Mizuki. Boss, began the clone as he laid the split open and already hollowed out body down at the end of the line. I discovered this body as well. It was obvious that you had started working on this one too, so I brought it back. Naruto looked up then spotted the body. He had forgotten all about Mizuki during the fight with Root and was surprised that a clone actually brought the corpse back. Bring him to me, said Naruto. The clone nodded and hoisted Mizuki onto his shoulder and walked over to his creator. After the body was laid down again, Naruto began to examine it to see how much damage the corpse had sustained. It was just as he left it except for a few scorch marks here and there. There's also something else, said the clone. Naruto raised an eyebrow and so did Sasuke. The clone pointed at Mizuki's neck and said, I sensed a powerful chakra coming from there. Naruto, intrigued, examined the area indicated by his clone and decided to focus a bit of chakra into that point. What happened next surprised him. A seal appeared and began to expand all over Mizuki's body, covering it in strange black markings. Naruto could feel the chakra getting stronger as the seal continued to spread. Well, this is interesting, he said as he focused more chakra into the seal. He watched intrigued as the seal spread even further and engulfed Mizuki in a purple light and began to literally transform his body. Sasuke was amazed. Just what the hell was happening? What was that seal the Naruto had discovered? Him and Naruto watched as Mizuki's body transformed into a powerful-looking tiger creature complete with yellow fur and black stripes. If Mizuki had been alive and used this power against Naruto, it would have been a more challenging fight. Oh well. Naruto grinned as the transformation ended and Mizuki began to revert back. Wait a minute there. He bit his finger and began to draw more seals on Mizuki's other seal and focus chakra. Sealing art. Fusion. This jutsu was a technique that Yugo had shown him a while back. It was originally designed as a medical seal to help with the reattachment of severed limbs and such. He had learned this jutsu as a simple way to help in the eventual repairs of his puppets, but he also began to experiment with it. Now really knowing what he was going to use it for. But now it seemed he found a use for this altered version. Mizuki's body began to glow again with the purple chakra and its own natural reaming reserves for a whole minute as the two chakras began to blend together and with Mizuki's corpse. Naruto watched with a satisfied smirk as the tiger marking seemingly exploded off of Mizuki and faded away. He watched as the seal seemed to get absorbed by the body and change it. A pair of tiger ears appeared on top of Mizuki's head. A tail spurted from behind. Mizuki's hands became claws and so did feet. His eyes turned cat-like and his canines grew into fangs. The skin on his forearms, back and legs also gained a light layer of tiger-striped fur. Once it was over, Mizuki looked like a normal man except for these new features that had come from fusing with the seal. There, Mizuki. You will be a much more efficient puppet this way, said Naruto as Mizuki stopped swirling with chakra. Sasuke leapt down with astonished eyes and bent over the new Mizuki. It was true. Naruto had fused him with that seal on his neck. He stood there gaping. If you want to know where I learned that seal, ask Yugo. She taught me the original version and I created a different version from it. Sasuke could only nod. Naruto turned his attention to his clones and said, "You all possess my knowledge, right?" They nodded. Good, because I don't feel like spending the next week out here. Pick a body and convert it into a puppet. The clones nodded and Naruto turned to Mizuki and Danzo. I have something special planned for you too, he said. Time skip. It was 5 in the morning when Naruto and Sasuke returned to Konoha. It was dead quiet and slightly foreboding. Sasuke was slightly green and Naruto was constantly smirking and sporting a new seal on his arm that said, Konoha Root. Oi Naruto, said the Uchiha after a minute. Naruto looked at Sasuke out of the corner of his eyes and nodded slightly to let him know that he was listening. Where did you learn the puppet technique? Naruto raised an eyebrow. No one had ever asked him that before. He decided to humor the Uchiha. I learned it in Suna when I went with Hokage Jiji when I was 4. I stumbled upon a master puppeteer's old training grounds and learned there. You learned all you do by simply reading scrolls. Naruto nodded. It wasn't so hard. When you live like I do, you learn to do things for yourself. Sasuke nodded in agreement. Anyway, I'm tired and still have to fix Fox Naruto. I will see you some other time, Uchiha-san. Congratulations on lasting as long as you did while watching me create my puppets. Not even Yugo could stand it after a certain point. Sasuke gave a slight smirk. Oh, and when you kill your brother, give his body to me. He has certain abilities that I find intriguing. You mean Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu? Naruto nodded. I could become more devastating with that kind of puppet under my control. Sasuke looked up and said, fine, but you have to give me something in return. We will discuss the terms when you show me the Uchiha's corpse. Sasuke nodded and the two parted ways. All the more reason to kill my brother as soon as possible, thought Sasuke. Naruto didn't say anything. He walked into his compound and to his room. He was tired. He had to sleep. He opened his door and discarded his weapons in a large storage scroll before flopping onto his bed and closing his eyes. What a day, he thought as the images of the other 5 children, Yugo, his special ops forehead protector and Mizuki drifted through his mind. I have to fix Fox Naruto as well. Scene change. Hinata, Hanabi and Neji sat in their respective rooms wide awake. They could not get what Hiyashi had said to them out of their minds. It unnerved them. Hiyashi message. Neji, Hinata, Hanabi. What you three are doing by associating with that monster goes against all the nobility and credibility of the Hyuga clan. However, recent events have come to light and changed my opinion slightly of that boy. I no longer see him as the Kyuubi but the council and the rest of the clan does. I will give you a warning. You no longer have the support of the Hyuga clan. The council has more or less cut all of its ties with you three. You have to train, learn and grow on your own from here on out. Goodbye. Hinata felt like crying but steeled her resolve and told herself she would grow strong. She would grow more powerful than any other Hyuga. That was what she desperately yearned for. Neji was contemplative. Ousted from the clan, all ties severed. They even removed the seal on his forehead and told him he wasn't even worth having as a servant. The statements had hurt him deeply, but they had also liberated him. He was no longer a servant. He no longer had the threat of death lingering over his head. He felt free. Hanabi was angry. How dare they do this to her? Just because she helped someone that clearly deserved it. It was ridiculous. She had never felt so wronged in her life. The fools were blind. Whatever. She was leaving the clan tomorrow anyway. She wasn't staying here. Not like she had a choice anyway. She came to a conclusion at nearly the same time Hinata and Neji did. Naruto. Meanwhile, Hiyashi sat in his office with a look of sadness. I'm sorry, it was either banishment or death. Please forgive me, Neji, Hinata, Hanabi. Scene change. Naruto woke up to the feeling of a pair of lips resting on his cheek. Yugo, this has to stop. Yugo smiled and stood back up. I was just congratulating you on becoming Hokage-sama's personal ninja. Why are you here so late? Yugo shrugged. My stuff is still here, so. I see. You used it as an excuse to be near me. Yugo blushed. Yugo, I don't understand your affections toward me, but I am well aware of them. I will tell you this again. Abandon this futile attempt at getting me to show emotions. It is useless. Beside, I'm 12 years old. You're like what, 25? Yugo became angry. I'm 19. Are you saying I look like an old lady? Older than 19, was Naruto's simple reply. Well, I never. Well, get ready, Naruto, because I will get you to smile. I will get you to show your bottled up emotions, and you know what? I'm going to take a picture each time. She then stormed out of the room and into her room. Naruto couldn't help but smirk a little. Yugo was indeed something else. He fell asleep with thoughts of his ninja career finally beginning and the prospect of all the puppets he would create in the future, be it from killing enemy nin or coming up with own ideas. Yugo sighed and flopped down onto her bed. 25. That was nearly 30. Did she really look that old? Or was Naruto-kun just messing with her? No, he was definitely serious. She glared at the ceiling. Just for that, she was going to do everything she could to make Naruto show some sort of emotion. Hey, perhaps she should get him to blush. Yeah, that was perfect. She fell asleep chuckling evilly to herself. Just you wait, Naruto-kun.